we return to the political continuum of Part 1. We delimit the area on the graph between reactionary and improved capitalism.
We're in the money. We're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along. We're in the money.
Introducing the Gini coefficient, Corrado Gini, 1912. This is a measure of inequality, of a distribution, in this case, wealth. It has been used often in the soft and hard sciences. Looking at national income equalities, a value of 0 indicates perfect equality. Everybody has the same income. Never happened. A value of 1 is perfect inequality. One owns everything, the rest nothing. This, also, has not happened, even in the worst of tyrannies. So, all values are between 1 and 0. This map shows the worldwide distribution of the coefficient. Notice the gray, no data areas in Africa and the Near East. Sweden is the only country which most approaches income equality, coefficient less than 0.25. Next comes Germany, Scandinavia and Central Europe, less than 0.29. Values of less than 0.34 range from Canada to the rest of Europe, the Asian, Turkmen regions, Mongolia, Korea, Australia and places in Africa. Values less than 0.39 can be seen in parts of Africa and Asia. Finally, values approaching 0.50 are in North and South America and China. Going beyond this, on the average, the greatest polarization between poor and rich appears in the Americas. This phenomenon is a contributory to political polarization. This corporate perception map shows business as the puppet master of rural America. See Part 2 of this series. Broadly speaking, it contains the basics of financial service, the medical industry, manufacturing, construction, mining. Other subsets are cyber-based business and entertainment, plus religion for profits. The big elephant in the living room is the military-industrial complex, which has important influences to all of corporate America. Oligarchic structure of power in America. Plutocrats. Multi-billionaires. Of the first 28 are in America. By far, the largest number. Captains of industry. Multimillionaires to billionaire. Lieutenants of industry. Millionaire to multimillionaire. White-collar grunts. Income less than middle-class pretense. Though grunts are saluting their superiors in the hope that, somehow, someday, they can assume their boss's coveted lifestyle. A doomed illusion. There is a negative exponential relationship between the few, very rich, and the lesser rich and too non-rich, and so on. The plutocrats' massive assets makes them the ultimate decision-makers of all souls downstream. The manipulation of the many by the few. They do not just affect America, but also the industrial world. Ultimately, the decisions of the few impact everybody on this planet, directly or indirectly. Historically, This state of affairs began at least with the agricultural revolution at about 10,000 BC. From then on, we had the development of monarchies and an oppressive priesthood. The latter created an effective system of scaring the gullible populations into obedient subjects by promising protection from violent and bloodthirsty deities. Originally, such tyrannies were geographically small. In time their domains increased greatly, but never became a global force, until the arrival of the information age. This is an assembly of corporate America and its puppets and linkages. The rural America puppets are essential for voting support. Consequently, they are strongly red-herringed, catered to, and patronized. The red arrow in the lower right shows the real power. The plutocratic puppet masters.
And we're taking care of business every day, taking care of business. Orderly, taking care of business. We're the maid, taking care of business and getting underpaid. Work out.
And how do the puppeteers manage this political and cultural balancing act? They lobby Congress and, indirectly, the military-industrial complex. A deluge of lobby money is pouring down on members of Congress. Additionally, an active campaign of red herrings descends on Washington, further influencing members of Congress. An iron curtain of money is descending onto democratic institutions, making them vassals of big money. A financial feudal system could approach where individual votes are greatly weakened by the power of the few. We delimit the area between radical and reform capitalism.
They used to tell me I was building a dream, and so I followed the mob. When there was earth to plow or guns to bear, I was always there, right on the job. They used to tell me I was building a dream, with peace and glory ahead. Why should I be standing in line, just waiting for bread? Once I built a railroad, I made it run, made it race against time. Once I built a railroad, now it's done. Brother, can you spare a dime? Once I built a tower up to the sun, brick and rivet and lime. Once I built a tower, now it's done. Brother, can you spare a dime? Once in khaki suits, gee, we look swell, full of that Yankee doodly-dum. 500,000 boots went slogging through hell, and I was the kid with the drum. Say, don't you remember, they called me Al. It was Al all the time. Why don't you remember? I'm your pal. Say, buddy, can you spare a dime? Once in khaki suits, ah, gee, we look swell, full of that Yankee doodly-dum. 500,000 boots went slogging through hell, and I was the kid with the drum. Oh, say, don't you remember? They called me Al. It was Al all the time. Say, don't you remember? I'm your pal. Buddy, can you spare a dime?
Another terrible day of backbreaking, dangerous labor underground.
Oh, you load 16 tons. What do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store.
Solidarity forever, for the Union makes us strong.
When the Union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the Union makes us strong.
Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the Union makes us strong.
It is we who plowed the prairies, built the cities where they trade, dug the mines and built the workshops, endless miles of railroad laid. Now we stand outcast and starving mid the wonders we have made, but the Union makes us strong.
Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the Union makes us strong.
They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn, but without our brain and muscle not a single wheel can turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the Union makes us strong.
Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the Union makes us strong.
In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of atoms, magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the Union makes us strong.
Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the Union makes us strong.
This is a perception map of events and treatment of the laboring masses. The thickness of the lines indicate their relative importance. The prime example for a divine right king is Louis XIV of France. Though the same ideology was practiced by most of the European and beyond monarchies. Louis proclaimed, "Let at, c'est moi, I am the state. He was the representative of God on earth, divinely acclaimed. Disobedience was a religious and political offense.
Listen up, you peasants. I am your God-given king. I am the state. We have one faith, one law and one king.
In 1763, the American Revolution was not really a socially conscious upheaval. It was more of a shopkeepers' revolt against British taxation. The framers of the Constitution were largely privileged members of society. Many owed slaves on their estates. The ringing and prophetic statements of the document were aimed at the largely Protestant, white population. In spite of this, the elegant message was heard in Europe and had some impact on the political powder keg in Paris, France. Liberty, equality, fraternity.
Stole the revolution. Some military adventures, the people adored me. I crowned myself emperor. They loved it. People are stupid. But then came Moscow and Waterloo and St. Helena in a lesson. I did my best to reinstall the old social order, power structure, and regimes, including social injustices. That ought to eliminate any further revolutions.
Sitting alone in your room, come hear the music play. Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret.
Why all this? Why does it matter? The Congress of Vienna tried to set back the clock to business as usual, including the treatment of the laboring masses. The reactionary European aristocracy had not learned anything from the French Revolution. The next relevant events are the publications of social critics, Marx and Engels, the Communist Manifesto, 1848, and The Capital, 1867. This resulted in a social and political tempest, which reached modern times. The next major influence, affecting the treatment of the laboring masses, was by the great preemptor Otto von Bismarck, 1850–1898. Originally, he was a typical example of the reactionary aristocracy, but he got spooked by the series of revolutions in post-Vienna Europe in 1848 to 1849. In order to prevent the recurrence of a French type of revolution, he supported a series of socio-economic reforms for the masses. This created the first welfare state in the 1880s. Health Insurance Bill, 1883. Accident Insurance Bill, 1884. Old Age and Disability Insurance Bill, 1889. In addition, compulsory education for the masses in the 1800s. There appears to be a cause and effect connection between Bismarck's reforms in the 1800s and Franklin D. Roosevelt's reforms in 1933 and beyond. In regard to the treatment of the laboring masses, the Social Security Act started with the first New Deal, 1933 to 1934, and beyond.
Assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed effort to convert retreat into advance.
World War II was a disaster for the world, but, ironically, economically, it was beneficial to America. It stopped the Great Depression in the U.S. In 1947, labor unions represented 31% of the non-agricultural employment. For other industrial countries, this was not high, even though it declined to very small numbers in modern times. There are several reasons for this decline. We begin with ignorance. Many of the blue-collar laborers were undereducated. Their ignorance was only a notch less than from the rural American masses. It created a significant handicap in the union formation process and conductance. The weakness was ruthlessly exploited by corporate America. McCarthyism. Accusations of subversion and treason without evidence. Red baiting. Smearing union as communistic. Racism and bigotry in American labor unions. This was against blacks, Latinos, and others. The dark side of labor unions in America. Corruption. Corruption. In old San Francisco, everybody gets paid, except the union members. American unions did not have the revolutionary zeal of their European brothers, who kept on challenging the awesome financial power of the corporations. For instance, Jimmy Hoffa used the Teamsters pension funds for his own finances. He was convicted for fraud and bribery. He was an example of other local labor leaders who used their unions for personal financial gain. Some got involved with organized crime, using violence to keep their power over employers. and their own union members. Historically, there is a great difference in labor supply between European and other industrial countries and America. This graph shows the drastic fluctuations of immigration into the U.S. between 1820 and 2003. There was a great supply of immigrant labor between about 1840 and 1930. Then, an abrupt stop occurred in 1931 at the height of the Great Depression. After World War II, immigration slowly recovered. This later migration had a different quality. Unlike the often undereducated masses before the Depression, this was a new mix of highly educated, white-collar professionals, and, to a lesser degree, of the regular blue-collar workers. In the pre-Great Depression era, there were several waves of immigrants, with different ethnic and cultural patterns. Their numbers were far less than those of the 1800s. Yet, their cultural footprints are still visible. These early immigrants were French, mainly in Quebec, English, German, Scandinavians, Dutch, and Scots-Irish. Upon arrival on the East Coast, they did not linger there, but went inland. They had sufficient experience in agriculture to eke out a living on the westward moving frontier. The immigrants of the 1800s generally stayed put in the growing urban centers along the East Coast. Examples were the Irish, Italians, and Eastern Europeans. For business and factories, they supplied near inexhaustible supply of eager laborers, willing to work under any conditions. They lived in ghettos of abject poverty. They were being preyed upon by urban nativists. They practically became economic slaves. This was different in Western Europe, where labor surpluses were less common. The arrival of the information age and the associated worldwide internet is dramatically and exponentially changing the culture of people in hard hats. For instance, Moore's law, fast increases in robotization are everywhere, eliminating jobs that were traditionally blue-collar. This is in addition to outsourcing. Automation creates higher productivity and job losses. The need for bronze is evaporating, whereas the need for computer-savvy brains is fast increasing. In America, a bachelor's college degree is replacing the former high school diploma. The higher the education, the brighter is the outlook for employment, especially in the various disciplines of nanotechnology, which is changing the world in shorter and shorter time steps.